Question gets asked every year: where to play EverQuest in 2025? Toward the end of every year, I begin data tracking across all servers so that I can make this video. I try to get it out yearly. Might have missed 2024. We have some shocking developments that have happened in EverQuest over the past year. So just to be clear, there are no events going on, no high times, expansion releases, anything cool like that going on, which makes servers fluctuate in capacity. I have included the emulation servers in this video, and there is going to be a lot of surprising results. I calculated at peak hours. During the times that I captured the data, I had a peak of 6,907 players on the emulation servers, compared to that same time capture of 8,825 total characters on all live servers. Those are characters, not players. And the big difference between a lot of the popular emulation servers and the live servers is boxing. Now, there are some emulation servers that do allow boxing. However, there are a lot that limit boxing. And pretty consistently, I once upon a time estimated that the amount of boxed characters on the live servers is at least on average 3 per player. Now, there is a handful of players just playing one character, but then there are people playing 3, 6, or 12. I average it out around 3 per player. So anytime you have a live server, you can pretty much divide that by 3. That includes even on the time lock progression servers, the TLPs, and that does include true box servers. There are a lot of people boxing on true box servers, but generally overall, 3 is a good safe number, 3 boxes per player. So when you have a number like 9,000 total characters on the live servers, that means there's about 3,000 players. You could be extra safe and divide it by 2 and say there's 4,500 players. I would not be surprised if even the estimate of 3 boxes per actual player is low and that it's 4 to 6. So there could be significantly less players in the game playing on the live servers. So the way that we're going to do this video is we're going to use a tier list. I've always wanted to create a tier list, so that's what we're going to do. And for this list, I have 31 servers that I did this for, and we are going to rank, rate, whatever you want to say, 31 servers and put them in tiers. Generating the icons actually took probably a lot longer than it will take to complete this video. Some were made through ChatGPT, some were made through Midjourney. Some represent a little bit of the server name. Some are just completely random. Hopefully you can read the text, and we'll just get right to it. Some of you are going to be saddened by this list. Categories I have are dead, and basically, should you play there? No, maybe. It's playable, and yes. And there are a lot of servers that I have my old characters on that kind of sad that they died off a little bit, but let's just go ahead and get the dead servers out of the way to begin with. The dead servers where you should absolutely not play. And if you do play there, feel free to comment below and tell us why. These were generally servers that either have no chance of succeeding or their population never clocked above 150 accounts. The first one's kind of surprising because it is one of the newest ones. So Tormax, our first dead server, launched with Teak. It was a classic server. We all kind of knew it was going to be dead from the start, especially when they launched the very favorable random tradable loot Teak. First dead server of the tier ranking is Tormax. Second dead server, Agnar. And this one's a little bit sad because I think it's one of the first TLPs I played on, but Aradune is a dead server. Mangler, also dead. Ragefire, dead. Rizlona, dead. Vanicky, dead. So Vanicky is one of the servers that people recommend you go back to because there's some rewards or claims you can get off of it. And that's the only time you'll visit it. The server's dead. And Yelenak, dead. And of course, Zach. Zach's always kind of been dead. That's the PvP server. I saw a couple people on there and I thought maybe I'm going to ask them what they're doing. It looks like there's either a 3 or 6 box person that plays on Zach, and I don't know who you are if you watch these videos, but I think that they play there because it's like having their own server. So they're completely left alone and no one bothers them. And I could see that being appealing to play on your own server if you don't want to host one. So I think that's what's going on Zach. Okay, moving on. The servers that are alive, this typically clocked in between 150, 250, sometimes 300 players at peak. These are going to be boxed or niche groups, maybe guilds. It's definitely not a server you want to return to and play at unless you know people there. First one that you should not play at but is still alive is Vox. And then this one I moved into the no category, Antonius Bale. It is a European server. It does not have high population, but I could see some people wanting to play there if they need that specific time range. Otherwise, it's a definite no. And then Barolsimar, no. Lucklin, no. Ovar, nope. This one was a little bit saddening because I have characters on here because I used to play on Prexis back in '99. The Wrath - Prexis, no longer playable. Probably some original players on there in guilds and people that have characters that just never quit. And then also a no is Tunar. And then that moves us to the next tier list. These are the maybes. These are servers that are not dead. They usually have populations between 300 and 500. There are probably some good guilds there, some good niche groups of people there. If you played on one of these servers, you could absolutely look in returning to it. I don't recommend it so much for new players, although it is much better, obviously, than the bottom 2 tier options. And the first server that is going to be a maybe, which I don't know if it's going to be a surprise or not, is Oakwin. Oakwin is one of the newer TLPs, has encounter locking and some other cool features, and then expansion bonuses. It basically it died off a lot. There's still a player base there. If you're into TLPs and not being at the end game, this could be a place that you could go to maybe. It looks like Oakwin is currently in the Prophecy of Ro, and I think it does have Relaxed True Box. So if you want to start somewhere back a little bit, not entirely bad. And then the next server as a maybe, Bertox, then the Kazakh Duel server. And we're going to put Grinnell in this category. And this is another surprise, Mischief. Mischief was the most hopeful server to go from classic to live and have a population. Still alive, still a lot of boxers on there, there's still a population, still people moving it. It is absolutely further along. Currently in the Dark and Sea expansion, so I think that's a level 105 expansion, so it's getting closer to live. This could be a server where if you quit like a few years ago, maybe during that expansion, you could hop back in and get going again. It does have the free trade random bonus loot, which was one of the key features, but obviously when you launch a new tradable loot server, Mischief becomes less appealing. And we knew that was part of the reason why they didn't launch another Mischief type server, because it would eventually take down this one. But I think Mischief is going to make it. And also joining this list will be Zegeny. And then our first emulation server, Convergence. Now, this is a really weird server. I've been watching the population of this, and sometimes in the morning, it has like this peak of like 700 players. And then sometimes in the evening, it has, down to 200-300. It's a maybe, but if somebody plays on the Convergence and wants to leave a comment, that'd be helpful for people watching this video. I can't tell yet if it's just a bunch of people that box at a certain time, or it's a different time zone type server, or the people that play there are from a different time zone. But it's definitely a maybe, and it could even be in the playable section depending on what type of feedback someone gives on that server. It does have the population to be in the A category, but with the big fluctuations, I just wasn't sure. So I'm giving it a maybe. And of course, information on the emulation servers will be in the links below, so you can check those out and read more about them. Moving on to the A, the playable category. The servers we have left are Bristlebane, Fiona Vi, the Lazarus Project, P99 Blue, Teak, The Hero's Journey, P99 Green, and Quarm. A lot of those are emulation servers. The first server going into the playable category will be Bristlebane. This is a pretty decently populated server, a live server. Again, I don't play on Bristlebane, so if you do play on Bristlebane, leave comments below. But it does have population to support, more population than obviously Mischief and Oakwind. So it is a healthy server and is definitely in the playable category. And then this is a surprise here. Fiona Vi falls to just the playable category. Now this last year would have been in the S section, the superior server to play on. I think with the release of Teak and having other servers like Mischief, Fiona Vi is a live server with tradable loot, and it does appear to have taken a population hit over the last year. Still a lively server and still absolutely playable. Maybe one of the best picks for a live server that is on the latest expansion. And also going into the A playable category will be Project Lazarus. And again, there'll be links below for you to read up on this, but this is a Omens of War era emulation server. It allows boxing up to 6 plus a Bizarre Mule, so there is boxing on here. Population is pretty healthy, and I'm not sure if their population data includes boxed characters or if they can even track that, or if we have to use my estimates, but Project Lazarus, definitely a playable server. And the next server that will go into here is P99 Blue. P99 Blue has been described as more of like a laxed, laid back classic version, like where P99 Green is just like strict, like hardcore EverQuest vanilla. P99 Blue has been explained as an experimental or quality of life improvement classic experience. I believe P99 is all in the Valius expansion, so pre-Lucklin, pre-AA. Definitely worth checking out if you want that classical experience. It is absolutely playable. They are pretty intense on multiboxing. It's likely that if you multi-box on that server, you will get banned and or flagged. So it is that original and unique experience where you're playing one character. And if you are a newer returning player, that is a good place to start with some quality of life improvements. And the next server that will be joining the A playable tier list will be Project Quarm. So Project Quarm is also a one box Lanes of Power era server. And a lot of the emulation servers focus on fixing the problems that the live servers had, where people are using MQ and multi-boxing. Some of these privately maintained servers with the one box will give you that true EverQuest experience. So Project Quarm is definitely a server that I've recommended in the past. and absolutely playable. And that concludes the A tier playable section. And so we will move on to the S tier, which you can see there's only 3 servers remaining. And of course, we have Teak. Teak is the newest release with random tradable loot. It has taken a hit recently, but currently on the Plains of Power expansion. If you're looking for the newest live server with random tradable loot, easy to catch up, Teak is definitely for you. It does peak over 2,000 players still, even after the Plains of Power expansion release. That's going to go up and down as new expansions come out. Keep in mind that it is a server that is true box, but you will still have to estimate 2 to 3 boxes per actual player. So of the 2,000 players, maybe you have 1,000 real players there with an average of 2 boxes per player, which I think is low, to be honest with you. I think there's more boxes per player. Also joining this list, P99 Green. Very healthy, original EverQuest Classic server up the Scars of Ilias, I believe. Single box, really well maintained, really strict. So if you're looking again for the actual hardcore realistic EverQuest Classic experience up the Ilias, P99 Green, you can't go wrong there. And finally, the hero's journey. So when I started seeing, I don't know, people talking about the hero's journey, I was like, that is a really, really neat take on the game. I wasn't sure if it would catch on, and unfortunately for Daybreak and maybe for the classic EverQuest players, not only did the hero's journey catch on, it's actually the most populated emulation server to date. It is a single box server. So that means that the population of 2,000 that I've tracked it at is actual 2,000 players. And that's unheard of. That's like Teak launch type player numbers, actual players, not people boxing. Hero's Journey is a completely new take on EverQuest. You can what's called multi-class in the hero's journey, and I'll probably make a video specifically just on the hero's journey later. The success of this server is something that, you know, Daybreak, Dark Paw needs to really pay attention to. Basically, you start out your single boxing and you can play up to 3 classes. That means you're going to get any of their spells, equipment, AAs, and it's just no matter what your group needs, like you can switch. So you could be tanking as warrior, but also be a ranger and just back up and start bowing something. Your group loses a healer, no problem. Someone in your group probably has the class to heal. And in addition to that, they made traveling easier. They say you don't need MQ. It's probably not even allowed. Don't need to box. Free trade, spawn rates are increased, and they've enhanced loot and other things. And I'm probably gonna do a video on this later, but Hero's Journey is something that absolutely caught on fire and is the most populated server of all servers. It is the most populated server in terms of actual real players. Like I said, 2,000 players on this actual server. That hasn't happened in a long time. And whether or not you're a hardcore classic EverQuest gamer, the Hero's Journey is something you're going to want to at least log into, install, and play around with, and just see what a modern day take and this unique take would look like. One of the problems that EverQuest live servers are going to run into is, you remember how I said at the start that there was 6,907 players captured during the same time on the emulation servers as live servers had 8825. That 8825 is going to be at least 3 to 6 boxing. The amount of players on live servers is significantly less than these emulation servers. And so what that means is that people running their own private servers are doing a better job, a more appealing job than the actual company that is running EverQuest. And if that's not a wake-up call to save the game, I don't know what is. Hats off to all of the people that have taken the time to run these private servers, whether you allow boxing or not. It is greatly appreciated. And even people that may not play on the emulation servers because they want to play on a live server for some reason should appreciate or do appreciate the work that you've done, because it does keep Dark Paw on its toes. It gives everyone another option to go and play somewhere, especially a lot of these are for free. We don't have to pay for crap. Hats off. Thank you for all the hard work and running these emulation servers. The links to these servers and information on it will be listed below. And if you're interested in watching anything else by me, check out this video.